So the last few things we're going to do is make substitutions. And it's just being careful about how things are expressed. You simply make the replacements. Whenever you see an x, you replace it with -2. Whenever you see a y, you replace it with 5. Whenever you see z, you replace it with -3. So let's see how that works in problem 54. In problem 54, we've got -2 squared. Now let's think about that. Let's make sure that's okay. What's being squared in this expression right here where my finger's pointing? Just the 2. Is that what we want? We just want the 2 to be squared? Or do we want -2 to be squared? What do we need
I
here?
squared -2.
We need to square -2. And how do we denote the fact that -2 is going to be squared? Parentheses around the -2. Now everything in the parentheses is being squared. So there's the -2 squared, and then z gets -3. Again, we're going to need more parentheses. How do we denote that this is not 4 minus 3? This is how we get to put those two numbers right next to each other, is by slapping parentheses around the negative sign. So two reasons that negative sign caused us to use parentheses. One is to make sure that the negative also got squared. Second, to make sure we realize we're multiplying and not subtracting. So, parentheses first, -2 squared. Negative times a negative is what sign?
Positive.
Positive, so it's going to be +4 times -3. Positive times a negative is negative. The size of it's going to be 4 times 3, or 12. Let's go to 56 and make our substitutions. So x is -2. Y is 5. -2. This is this -2 out here. And z is -3. So we got to keep our order of operations straight. What do we do first?
Multiplication.
We're going to do multiplication. And one thing we got to be aware of, by the way, though, is that there's another set of parentheses implied. So this isn't written into the problem, but it is implied. Whenever you see that division bar, everything on top is grouped together, everything on bottom is grouped together. So, this multiplication, so we do each parentheses by itself, and this multiplication is the first thing inside this top parentheses. So -2 times +5 is going to be -10 minus 2, and downstairs we are left with -3. Okay? Now -10 minus 2. How do we do that again? If somebody's getting confused.
If we positive 8, we got that.
12.
Oh, so we're getting different things here. So let's remember the rules here. First of all, it's a subtraction. This thing is a subtraction problem, correct?
Yeah.
It's a subtraction problem, which means anything other than a nice, straightforward, like 6 minus 2 equals 4. Any other subtraction that's not nice and straightforward, we have to change it into an addition problem. So -10 minus 2 becomes 10 plus what? The opposite of 2. Okay? So that's 10 plus the opposite of 2. Now, when we're adding two things with like signs, we're adding two things with like signs. Add the magnitudes, and then slap on whatever the sign is. So we know this sum has to be positive or negative. Which one does it have to be?
Negative.
It has to be negative. And so for size, we just add 10 plus 2, and that's 12. And then slap on a negative sign. Or in other words, this represents 10 steps backward, and this represents 2 more steps backward. We've made a total of 12 steps backward up here. And so that gives you negative 12 divided by negative 3. So now, negative 12 divided by negative 3, negative divided by negative is positive, and 12 divided by 3 is 4, so we've got positive 4 down there.